I submit to you that it is impossible to believe something, belief meaning to accept a claim as true, if you don't understand it. For example, do you believe... Do you?
The thing that gets me, though, is it's like you'll believe that somebody walked across water and turned water into wine, and that someone spent 3 days in the stomach of a giant fish, but evolution just blows your mind. The idea here is that we have 3 jars. We have a jar that has existent dice. We have a jar that has supernatural, transcendent dice. And we have a jar of nothing. There's nothing in this jar. And what we did last time is we just sort of mixed them all up. And then I asked Matt, which jar has the real dice?
That one.
Okay. And which jar has the supernatural, transcendent dice?
I don't know.
Why not?
Because they look the same to me. But can I shake it?
Yeah, go for it.
This one's not making any noise, so that one must have the supernatural dice.
Okay, but this one doesn't make noise either.
Oh, okay.
Now, let me just say that even if these die had some weird property like water where they were completely, you couldn't see them, let's say that they weren't visible. If you take these out of the jar and you weigh it, the jar weighs something different than when you put the die in it.
One of these is going to be heavier, I can tell. Go ahead.
And the other thing is, like you said, you shake the jar and you can hear the jar. If you wanted to know if there was, for example, oxygen in a jar like this, you could light a match and see if it burned or not. It doesn't have to just be visible. There's all kinds of ways that these die manifest.
I think they weigh about this. This one's a little bit heavier, just a bit. Maybe that's the one with the dice in it.
Okay. The problem with these is that if you have something that you define as something that has no measurable manifestation, and we don't know how to measure it, and there's nothing that you can provide that is how we identify it from nothing, how do you identify it from nothing? It's the same as nothing until you can find a way to demonstrate that it's something.
I would ask God to tell me which of those has this, but unfortunately that spoon is still a spoon. From last week, still a spoon. And so...
But the demonstration here is just to say that if you're going to tell me that something is existing, and then you're going to say that it can exist even though it has no manifesting qualities that can be measured, what you're really saying then is that we can't differentiate something that is not existent from something that exists but has no existent qualities. And so then what happens is I can't tell the thing that manifests and exists from the things that don't manifest and exist, which means that I can't say nothing. There's nothing that I can say doesn't exist because maybe it exists but it simply doesn't manifest. And at that point, existence now cannot discount anything. All you have to do is say it has no manifesting traits, no measurable traits, and suddenly existence means nothing.
Yeah.
Because things that have you can't tell things that exist from things that don't exist anymore, and now we have, the term is just completely castrated. So it's kind of sad that the only way you can argue for the existence of something that you believe in is to simply try to argue that existence means nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, existence means something. And if you don't think that it means something, think about the idea that manifestation is the attribute that separates the items that exist from those that do not. If you don't agree with it, think about how you live your life, and do you accept that the things that are manifesting in front of you, the things that you can identify and verify and measure, are there, and the things that you don't aren't. You don't come to a screeching halt at a green light because of the car you can't see just ran in front of you. You know, the invisible car that drove in front of you doesn't make you slam your brakes on. And the car that does cut you off at that light, you will slam your brakes on because it manifests. You live your life every day identifying things that are and rejecting things that aren't. And yet when it comes to something as simple as saying, you know, is there anything in this jar? If I say it's supernatural and transcendent, suddenly, okay, well, that's this, and it's logical to believe in it.
I changed what's in those jars now. I took the supernatural transcendent dice out. One of them now has a soul, and the other one has Zeus's little finger.
You're messing up my model.
All right. Here,
Put it back.
I'm going to dump Zeus's little finger. I think it's out.
Okay. Yeah, if a supernatural existent item does not meet the criteria we use to justify existent items, what becomes our basis for labeling anything as existent? Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's too much.
Okay.
It's the single most perfect explanation of this. When she called to tell me she wanted to do this on the show or sent me an email, I was like, yeah, it's perfect.
No, it is. And so the thing with this, I'm not going to belabor this any longer because we actually did this part of it on the last show I was on.
Great.
So if you want to go back and look and see more of that. The next thing that you can do with this fallacy model is you take these two jars, set them aside. You take this jar, and I say to Matt, guess how many die are in jar 1?
21.
Okay. I'm going to guess 150,000.
Wait, I miss. Talking about dice, right?
Yeah, in the jar.
Okay.
You're saying 21, I'm saying 150,000.
Want to put some money on it?
What this part of the fallacy model demonstrates is that, Matt, do you know how many die are in this jar?
Nope.
Okay. In the theory of the model, neither of us know how many die are in this jar. So does it make sense, since neither of us really know how many die are in this jar, that any quantity guessed is just as valid as any other quantity?
No.
Why not?
Because one of them's just batshit crazy.
All right, but why?
Because of what we do know about dice and that jar, we know that one of the guesses is beyond the possible limits of what could possibly be in there.
Right.
There's
It is
clearly 100 million.
just because we don't know how many die are in this jar does not mean that every guess is just as valid. Some guesses are completely ridiculous.
Yep.
Because you do know something about jars, and you know something about dice, and as long as you have some parameters in place, it is ridiculous to guess there's 150,000 die in this jar.
I'm gonna possibly get ahead of you.
Go ahead.
Can you grab one of the empty ones?
Sure.
No, not the empty, not that one. The one with the actual supernatural transcendent
Okay,
dice in it.
here you go.
This has the supernatural transcendent dice in it.
Right.
Guess how many are in this one?
I don't have a clue. Should I take a guess? You want me to just wing it?
Guess.
1,050,000.
And I'm going to guess 30. Our guesses are now equally valid.
Right.
Because the information that we would use to make our guess is no longer applicable.
Right.
Because we don't know anything at all about transcendent supernatural
Supernatural
dice. There could be 1 million of them in there. And the funny thing is that when the people make these arguments with regard to religion, they take that as a proud, defining moment of, I believe there's 1 million transcendent supernatural dice in here, and I also believe that I don't know anything or completely understand those dice. What?
And the guy over here that says that there's only 50, he's not a true believer in the transcendent dice.
Yeah,
he's got,
the tip
that's
of the
error.
iceberg. He looked in and saw 50 and stopped looking.
Right.
I mean, those are the types of arguments you get.
So when you get into something like,
Look
I
out
don't know,
there at the
the beginning, I can tell you how many there are. There's the beginning, universal origins.
I'm going to count them anyway.
And people will say, it's just as reasonable to say a God did it as to not say a God did it. It's like, well, we do actually know some things about the universe. In fact, I'm part of the universe, and I know some things about myself. So it's not like nobody knows anything about the universe. You live in it, you work in it, you deal with matter and energy every single day. We do know quite a bit about it.